Hello. So I wanted to talk about this question: was Astroworld a satanic ritual? And I'm just going to dive straight into the evidence. All the evidence that people are saying shows that it's a satanic ritual, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. So here's some of the weird things that happened surrounding this Astroworld thing. So on the day of the concert, just before Travis Scott, the Astroworld began, he released a song called Escape Plan, and that is a kind of unfortunate title given the circumstance of people being trapped in a crowd crush. But on top of that, inside of the video, he was wearing a Pearl Jam top. Of all the t-shirts he could have wore, he wore a Pearl Jam top, and this is also a weird coincidence because Pearl Jam are a band that were also involved in a crowd crush incident, and their crowd crush incident happened to be very similar to the Astroworld. It happened in year 2000 in Denmark's Roskilde Festival, and 8 people died on the day, and then a 9th person died 5 days later in hospital. And at Astroworld, 8 people died on the day, and then a 9th person died 5 days later in hospital. There has been a 10th that's died now, but still the 8 people at first and then 9th in hospital 5 days later is a bit weird. Also that's weird is Pearl Jam released an album about a month before the festival called Binaural, and this was the album cover. Looks like a big figure 8 with an eye of God in the middle. This is all their merchandise around the time, and this is based on an actual, this is not Photoshop, this is an actual satellite image of a nebula in our universe about 8,000 light years away, called the Engraved Hourglass Nebula, and it's been nicknamed the Eye of God apparently. So that's not Photoshop, that's a real image. Big figure 8. And this is particularly weird because when you look at Travis Scott's set, and my computer's been a bit slow today, so hopefully this plays. This happened on the first gig, first show. Sound, hello. Sorry, slow computers. But you can see the eye of God, or the all-seeing eye, and then these eight flames, very, very prominent at the front of the gig. 8. So that's weird, right? He releases a song called Escape Plan on the day before this, which is unfortunate enough already, and then he was wearing a Pearl Jam top in that song. And then this happens, and Pearl Jam's got this artwork here with this eye, all-seeing eye. So is Travis Scott and the 8. 8 people die on the night, and both of them, a 9th died 5 days later. So just the first coincidence, a little bit weird. Here's another coincidence. The Church of Satan was founded in April the 30th, 1966. Exactly 666 months and 6 days later is the Astroworld concert, 5th of 11th, 2021. It's exactly 666 months and 6 days later. Very weird. And then also, the difference between Drake's birthday and Travis Scott's birthday is 66 months and 6 days. And then you've also got Kris Jenner, which is the grandmother of Travis and Kylie's baby. It turned 66 on November the 5th. Lots of 66 coincidences. And another slightly weird thing to mention as well is, firstly, Travis Scott's birthday is April the 30th, and that is the same date as the founding of the Church of Satan. Unless he's made it up deliberately, but that seems like a coincidence. And the other weird thing to mention is that his birthday recently seems to have changed from 1992 to 1991. Wikipedia has changed it to 1991, and it used to be 1992. There's all these old websites that still got it as 1992. And I think we can be sure it's 1992 because there are still YouTube videos that, like this one here is from 2021, May 2021, and it's a video on YouTube of Travis Scott celebrating his 29th birthday. If he was born in 1991, that would have been his 30th birthday. If he was born in 1992, that's his 29th birthday. So, a little bit weird, just something to point out. So anyway, yeah, and then Kris Jenner turning 66 on the November the 5th on that day, just seems like a weird coincidence. There's this page has about 300 odd people, famous people who were born on November the 5th. The vast majority of these I've never heard of. There's only 3 of them turned 66 on November the 5th, and the other 2 were Tegan Clive and Karan Thapar, who are 2 people I've never even heard of. So, you know, it seems unlikely that of all the people that could have turned 66 on November the 5th, it was Kris Jenner. So anyway, that's one weird thing. Here's some more weird things. I think it was the day later, at least 2 days later, but I think it was the day later, on the 6th of November, reporting on the 7th, a member of UB40 dies, and his name is Astro. Could be coincidence, could be confirmation bias. Just a little weird, though. He dies the next day. More weird things. Samhain, the festival of Samhain. It's normally Halloween, but in like occult circles or in this kind of pagan circles, they actually celebrate it usually on November the 5th. Because I mean, I'm not into all this stuff, but apparently it's to do with when Scorpio is 15 degrees in its precession or whatever it's called, and right in the middle of Scorpio. So it's normally on November the 5th, and then apparently this year it's actually November the 6th. So his concert was on November the 5th. So not quite exactly, but it's around about that time. And basically the idea is that this is supposedly, in folklore, the time when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. So, you know, whether you believe that or not, it's still kind of a coincidence that this happened on that date. Possibly coincidence, don't know. I'll just leave it there for you to ponder. Slow computers again. Let's see if I can get this. So this was, he also had this flaming dove. This was the actual set. No sound. My computer's really slow. Don't know why. You don't need to see it. He had that flaming dove, or some people think it's a phoenix, which is basically very evil looking. This is these coincidences are more Travis Scott's set. This is the set. He had these like all-seeing eyes on his set. Just spooky things. Slow computers. Weird hypnotic hands. You know, are these coincidences or are these more suggestive? I'll get into this later. This is pretty freaky that people pointed out. Is the set was in the shape of an inverted cross going into this tunnel, which seemed very portal-like in the middle of a mountain. And the first thing that's suggested to me and to lots of other people is the Gotthard Base Tunnel in Switzerland, which is the world's longest tunnel. And a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, they had an opening ceremony, and it was weirdly satanic. And people pointed it out and said it was just this bizarre satanic ritual to, you know, to have the ceremony for the opening ceremony of this tunnel. And again, so that's kind of like links up with that. He's got this mountain and a tunnel and the cross, and it's kind of the Antichrist there kind of thing. Just this sense of like summoning the Antichrist. Probably nothing. Bit weird. And it also reminded a lot of people, and me as well, a little bit of the CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. This is also in Switzerland, this big kind of tunnel, and they're trying to kind of, I don't know exactly what they're trying to do, but some people say they're trying to find the God particle or open up other dimensions maybe. And this CERN loop here is actually built underneath an ancient temple to Apollo, which apparently has significance. And they also have this Shiva statue outside their headquarters, and Shiva is the god of destruction, and it's all a bit okay, just weird things. And then here's some more things about Travis Scott and his promo material, his culture, his world he's created. So this is one of the promos for the Astroworld. Has these hands with these eyes again, the mountain and the portal, open your eyes to a whole new universe, people going through a doorway and then coming out with kind of like spiky hair at the other side. See you on the other side. So see you on the other side, he that was on the set. This is the portal. He had that during the day. See you on the other side. Basically on the other side of what most people think is the other side of. See you on the other side. It's death, isn't it? I mean, some people think it's the other side of an experience. Maybe it's just some kind of astral. See you on the other side of some kind of experience, some kind of doorway. But it's also suggested of death, I think. See you on the other side. this is he was wearing, this is the people, they were actually blue, then going through a doorway and they come out red with little spikes. Some people think that's demons. Who knows? I don't think that you could necessarily, it could mean that he means they're just more alive. I think it probably means that they're I think he thinks that means that they're darker, they're in touch with their evil side, they're in touch with their bad side, just judging from some of his other videos. He wants people to go kind of wild, go crazy, stop being such goody-goodies. Yeah, I don't know. That's my impression. But it's not necessarily demons. Well, it is demons in a sense. Yeah, maybe. But, not dead. Here's another promo. It's pretty freaky. The true dystopia is here. When the end arrives, it's really the beginning. Who knows what lies beneath the surface? All connected with death, suggesting of the next life. Utopia Mountain, that just reminded me of the TV series Utopia. Might have been a connection there for some people. This is another bit of a promo that he had. See you on the other side again. This is apparently a stinking corpse lily, which is the smelliest flower on earth, apparently, and it smells like rotting flesh. And he's got people kind of like being sucked into it with the all-seeing eye again. Death, see you on the other side. Very suggestive. This is the promo of it. And then, you know what I mean? Like, if it was me, I would be kind of mortified that I had all the... If that was a coincidence, I'd be like, oh, God, that was so insensitive of me. But anyway, see you on the other side. It's very... Is it a coincidence? Is it a cause? Is it suggestive? Don't know. And then this was happening in the Astroworld, so he had this big kind of like sculpture, inflatable head, and people had to go through the mouth. This was his artwork for our Astroworld. Again, people entering through the mouth, and it looks very hellish in this picture with the kind of the red orange hue of like flames and smoke. He says it was based on... Oh no, there's another one. People going through the mouth in the set. He said it was based on this. Astroworld used to be a roller coaster theme park place in Houston, Texas, where he grew up, and this was like the entrance. But throughout history, most people think of the mouth and walking through the mouth as being the entrance of hell. That's what it's got its reputation for. I think most people think of it, hell mouth or the jaws of hell. Loads of artwork about it. This is a artwork by a guy called Hieronymus Bosch, called the Jesus in Limbo, something like that. And again, there's this idea of that being the entrance of hell. There's some stuff in the Bible, Isaiah 5:14. Therefore hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it, entering into the mouth of hell. So that kind of idea. So yep, he had all that. And then this was one other thing at Astroworld, where they had this black cube with Travis, a sculpture of Travis coming out of this black cube. I mean, I've just thought of this just now, but again, this idea of like the Antichrist being summoned. It looks a little bit like he is being summoned from this black box. It's art. You can think what you want. People have different interpretations. Now, I haven't looked deeply into this. I'm saying things that other people have said, so I don't really know whether this is just people searching for links or whether it's true. But the black cube apparently is linked with Satan worship and Saturn worship and all kinds of like dark things. There's like the cube in Mecca, and there's lots of these black cubes all around the world. Something to do with Saturn, because Saturn, where is it? Saturn has this kind of weird hexagonal thing here, and I don't know, astronomers think that that's like a cube, a 3D cube. If you looked at it, fits a 3D cube. Apparently, I don't know how it all works. But it's got the thing about the cube is it's got 8 sides. So it's got the number 8. It's linked with an hourglass. Again, the hourglass nebula is linked with this idea of infinity, Saturn worship. I mean, I keep hearing other people linking this whole thing to Saturn. This is a picture of Saturn devouring one of his sons, and Saturn eats his children. It's this weird god. Other people will probably get better link ups than me, but and Saturn is the inspiration apparently for Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth, and Pale Man has been linked to this thing as well, because he's got the eyes in his hands, and he's got the eyes in the hands there. Some people have made that connection, and he eats his children like Saturn. And there's just some people have made some links there. I don't know whether I'm making big two links, but anyway, this is all the weird stuff that people are saying, though, that it's all linked up to all this kind of stuff. So that is what's happening. surrounding this Travis Scott Astroworld Festival concert. Very mysterious. Some of the coincidences seem weird to me. And so, so when people say, was it a satanic ritual? What do people mean? What people mean specifically is that they're suggesting that there was something supernatural happened there. There was something beyond natural explanation happened. Yeah. And there are two basic ways in which we could explain this kind of... There are two basic kind of ways of looking at this if something supernatural happened. One that a lot of people are looking at, and most people are saying, is that they're suggesting that something premeditated happened. So I'm guessing it was premeditated supernatural summoning. So they're assuming they're suggesting that there's a group of people, either Travis or other people behind him, are actually demonic. They actually they deal with occult rituals. They summon demons regularly, and this is all some kind of thing that they planned for, and they've been praying to their god of Lucifer or their Saturn gods or whatever they'd have, and this is deliberate. This is premeditated, and there's something behind the scenes that we're not seeing, and they're connected with dark forces and we don't know about it. That's what I think a lot of people are suggesting. Personally, I'm open to it, because this last couple of years I've come across lots of dark rabbit holes that makes me think maybe there are some really weird occult-like satanic things going on in some elite circles, and it's like, maybe I'm open to it, but at the moment, have I got the evidence to really prove it? I don't think I do. I'm just kind of got an eye on it, but I don't know whether I have the evidence for it. But the other possibility about the supernatural explanation is that it's possible that this is a situation more like when people play with Ouija boards, and sometimes you get like some naive teenagers who they play with a Ouija board and it's just a bit of fun, and they don't really... Some people think it's absolute nonsense, nothing's going to happen. Other people they just wonder whether there's something going on in the dark side of life, and they play with a Ouija board, and then you hear this story over and over again of something weird happening, and it kind of opens up something inside people, and they have nightmares for the rest of the week or the month or whatever like this, or something weird happens and it spooks people, and they suddenly realize, maybe I touched or opened up something that I shouldn't have done. And there is this question in people that everybody asks of, like, is the spiritual realm real or not? Is it just total nonsense? We live in a material universe. Don't be ridiculous. It's all crazy. Or is it not so crazy? Is there a spiritual realm? And is there dark forces? And this leads me on to my third point, which is that I think existence is profoundly mysterious and incredibly weird. And I think as vast and infinite as the universe is, so are the mysteries that we are yet to fathom and understand. Like, there's so much we still don't know about existence. I think it probably goes deeper and vaster than we can even comprehend. And what was I going to say about that? Yeah, and so I don't think you have to necessarily be a theist or believe in the supernatural realm to find this whole situation curious, because even if you're an atheist, if you're an open-minded atheist, maybe there are weird things that we can't explain, that, you know, some of this stuff, what one person thinks is the spiritual realm, maybe one day we'll have a naturalistic explanation. But maybe it's like, I don't know, there are other dimensions that people talk about sometimes, or maybe there's a multi-universe theory that could explain some of this stuff, or maybe sometimes I think human beings, they're subconscious. Maybe it goes way deeper than we realise, and maybe human beings we do possess an intuition that goes beyond our conscious awareness. And we can, like, predict the future in a weird way, because we kind of get signals from another dimension and we just don't realise it. And it's, you know, because, well, yeah, let me do this in order. Yeah, but even if there is no mystery here and there's a totally obvious naturalistic explanation, I would still like, it's still a mystery to me that I would like to even know that answer. But this is the thing. So the fourth thing is, most of this talk and this area that we're talking about is all basically in the realm of speculation. And a good way of seeing this is the story of Flatland. And if you haven't heard of it, sorry, let me just, where did I get it? There it is. Flatland it's a story about a land of creatures who are entirely 2D. Their entire existence is two-dimensional, just left and right. They have no concept of up, no three-dimensional. They exist in this two-dimensional plane. But then one day a being from the third dimension crosses their plane, tries to interact with their plane, and you can imagine it's like a sphere or something crossing the plane of a 2D plane. To a 2D person, 2D creature, they would be looking at this from one side. All that they would see is a little line that gets bigger until it gets to the center of the sphere, and then smaller, and then it would just disappear from existence. And if you put different shapes, 3D shapes across the 2D plane, and different people in that 2D land were seeing it from different angles, they would see all kinds of different things, and basically it would be like a profound mystery. And to the people in 2D land, there would be far more that they wouldn't know and wouldn't understand than what they would know and would understand. All they see is like a thin slice, and it would be totally mysterious, and there would be far more than they get wrong about this subject than they would get right. And it makes me think of all these kind of interpretive arts. I don't know what the proper name is, but all these like numerology, tarot card reading, astrology, all of these things. It's human beings trying to understand the mysteries of the universe, trying to kind of figure out if there's a spiritual realm and trying to decode it, right? And it's kind of no wonder that we get far more wrong than we get right, because maybe we're trying to figure out things that are just at this stage in human history are like really, really mysterious. So I think I want to kind of bring the atheist along with me a little bit, and all of these thoughts are basically speculation, a lot of this stuff, and now personally I'm a theist and a Christian. I've never actually been into astrology, numerology, tarot card reading. I've never been into all that stuff. But before all of this stuff, I consider myself like a truth seeker. I just want to know the truth. And so I just want to follow the evidence. And the reason why I'm a theist is because I think the evidence points to theism. And the reason why I'm a Christian is I think there's pretty good evidence for that as well. I'm more a theist than I am a Christian, but I still think there's good evidence for Christianity. So I'm still just about Christian. But I just haven't seen any evidence for astrology, tarot card reading, all that kind of business, but could be there. I just haven't seen it. But I tend to think it's probably more confirmation bias and pattern recognition and things like that. But who knows? Maybe there is more to life and more to these things. But there is one thing when it comes to trying to figure out them. This possibility that the spiritual realm has crossed the plane of our physical realm, and we're trying to understand mysteries. Maybe that happened at Astroworld. Something supernatural occurred, and we're trying to figure out. One of the ways that I always think that does catch my attention is coincidences. Now, coincidences are tricky because a lot of the times what people think are coincidences aren't really coincidences, and there's some explanations, but sometimes there are coincidences that go beyond what would be statistically expected, and those ones are the ones that make me sit up and think, that's weird, that shouldn't have happened, that requires more than a naturalistic explanation. And they're the ones that always make me sit up and notice. And I just want to say three things about coincidences, because I think it's a bit of a messy area. The first thing is there is a distinction between a coincidence and a cause. And the more causally connected a claimed coincidence is, the less of a coincidence it is, and the more of a cause it is. So, for example, if I throw a knife into the air in a crowded space, and then suddenly somebody dies from a knife wound to the head. That's not a coincidence. That's a cause. Those two things are very causally connected. Whereas if I throw a knife into the air just on my own in a big field, and I just do it for fun because I'm weird like that, throwing knives in the air, and then I go home from having all my fun, and I turn on the news, and the first story I hear is some kind of celebrity has just died from a knife wound that hit them right in the head from, I don't know, they were reaching up to a shelf and it landed on their head or something like that. And it was like, that would be a coincidence, because those two things are very causally unconnected, totally disconnected. And the more causally disconnected a coincidence is, the more of a coincidence it is. Whereas, if it's causally connected, then it's not really a coincidence. So there's that to bear in mind. And if we go further, if you imagine like a band who are, all they sing about and talk about all day is suicide. Let's call them the Suicide Sisters, and they sing about suicide all day. All their fans love suicide, all their artwork's about suicide, and all their songs are about suicide. And then one day, a fan commits suicide. Would that be a coincidence? No, it would be probably much more of a cause, Now, maybe they always, they didn't want anyone to actually commit suicide. It was just for fun or something, but it's so suggestive that it's not really a coincidence. It's cause. Well, we got some of that with Travis. A lot of Travis's stuff, artwork, his whole culture it's almost priming people to, he's almost created this situation himself. A lot of his art is very suggestive. I mean, he's got this whole rage culture. He's got the whole rage culture of where he tells his fans, he encourages his fans to, a mosh pit isn't a mosh pit without injuries, without people passing out. He says no bystanders. The people who don't participate on the edges are losers. He shames them. He says the people in the middle who are the ragers, they're the true heroes. He wants people to give their all. He has t-shirts like this where he wants you to go through an experience where he turns you into a rager, turns you into real life. And then he's got all this artwork that is suggestive of see you on the other side, and when the end arrives, it's really the beginning. Who knows what lies beneath the surface? Astroworld, astral projection. This sense that the sense that death is not the end, as a sense, it almost kind of, it's weakening the fabric between this life and the next. With his words, he's suggesting that go crazy at his gigs. You can rage, and who cares if you die? Because the end is just the beginning. That's the. I mean, look, all of his art is very suggestive, and people can. It's art. People can have their own interpretations, but that's kind of what I get. Maybe is like, the end is really the beginning. You can push yourself to your limits, and who cares if you die? And so he's created a culture where his fans are probably way more likely than other fans to withstand pain compared with other fans, because to quit is to be a loser. He says, some people can't survive the rodeo. People who leave are losers, and he encourages the people who stay and stick and fight and mosh and rage. He encourages that and says these people are heroes. He does all of that, and so you can imagine in a Mumford & Sons gig, as soon as it gets a bit tight, people would just be like, oh well, I'm not that desperate, I'll just jump over the fence. It would never get that crazy, but when with his festivals, he's almost encouraged this thing. And so all of these, so it's almost like he's been tempting fate, and he's been playing with this idea, this culture that was a dangerous game he was playing with, and playing with dark ideas, and so I basically think these fall to me more in the category of causes rather than coincidences. It's not a coincidence if he's singing about this stuff and getting everybody to do this stuff. It's not that much of a surprise when people actually go that one step further. If he thinks if you talk about passing out all the time and then people pass out, that's not a surprise. People say a mosh pit isn't a mosh pit without injuries, and then people get injured. It's not a surprise. Well, death is not that far away from an injury or a passing out. It's only one step away. And maybe he didn't mean it, and maybe he didn't plan it, and maybe he never really wanted anyone to die. I would think that's the case. Some people would say it's premeditated. He did want that. I would suggest he didn't, which is why I tend to think it was more like a person playing a Ouija board and messing around with forces that he didn't realize how dark they could get, and he wasn't being responsible with it. I think he was he didn't want anyone to die, but he was being irresponsible with this culture that he was creating, pushing people to their limits without being responsible. But anyway, it's not a coincidence, I don't think, some of these things, but some of them are coincidences. So things like the 8 flames. I mean, that to me is not a cause. Like, that's very strange to me. I mean, Darren Brown, I'd like to hear what Darren Brown thinks of it, because he might say it's a cause. Because if you ever watch Darren Brown, he seems to... I don't know how much of him... He thinks it's all psychology. I don't know how much of him is a magician or psychology. But he can get people to do some really crazy things, all through the power of suggestion. And he would do... If he was setting up something like this, I can imagine Darren Brown would do things like this. And he would have big number 8s. It actually feels like a massive Darren Brown experiment, this entire thing. I'd love to hear his opinion on all this, because there's loads of suggestive stuff. You can almost make it happen, which would mean that it was deliberate if that's the case. But again, I think it's more like it's accidental or something. I don't know. It's very strange, very, very strange. But we'll get onto that. But then there's 2 other things about coincidences to say. One, the second is that there are some coincidences that are statistically unsurprising. So, for instance, one day I was walking down the street and I saw a 10p on the floor, and I had my headphones in and I was listening to an economics podcast, and the person in the podcast at the very same time I saw the 10p said 10p. He just had a sentence and it ended with 10p, just as I saw the 10p, and it was really weird. And I remember thinking, oh, how funny is that? That's not supernatural. That is statistically expected to happen, given the amount of times I listen to podcasts. At some point, I'm going to see something, and the person speaking is going to say the exact thing that I'm looking at, and it's going to be a coincidence. Look at that. But there's nothing supernatural about that. So these kind of things happen sometimes. But if that event happened every day for like a week, every day I would look at something and the person in my ears would say the exact thing I heard, something weird like that, that would go beyond what would be statistically expected, and that would make me sit up and think, maybe God's trying to tell me something here. That's when it goes. So it has to go beyond what's naturally expected. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing to notice about coincidences is hits and misses. We tend to only see the hits and we forget about all the misses. So what I mean by that is, if you look at these like birthday things, 666 months and 6 days between the founding of the Church of Satan and the day of the festival, that's a hit. We've seen a hit there. That's a big 666 number. But you have to think about all of the other dates or ways that we could have linked this festival with something dark. All the ways you could have linked it with something dark that didn't occur. So you could think of what about Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan? What about his birthday and his death day? Was that linked? What about Marilyn Manson's birthday or death day? Oh, he hasn't died. His birthday, is that linked? And what about other dates like the Pearl Jam? Could we have linked that? And none of as far as I know, none of these dates have any kind of weird 666 significance. And it's not just 666 dates. What about if it had been the 50th anniversary or the 10th anniversary, or something like that? Would we have been using that as a coincidence in this kind of spooky thing? There's all kinds of other ways that we could have found dates that could have worked, but haven't. None of these have these weird coincidences. And so you have to actually look at the full data set of all the possible coincidences that could have happened, where we could have linked it to the festival and said that's a dark coincidence. and then find the ones that did work and work out the odds. And then you can get a full proper idea. But still, even with that, I mean, I'd have to do a proper mathematical analysis of the whole thing. But my intuition, my sense is that this is still pretty freaky. I still sense that this is statistically strange. That, because, you know, of all the people you could make this connection with, the Church of Satan is a big one. That's like a big one. Marilyn Manson, the Pearl Jam concert, Anton LaVey, who else? Kris Jenner. There's only 2 performers, Drake and Travis, and their dates are linked by 66 months and 6 days. There's not, 9/11. There's not that many front runners, and so to have a hit like that with 4 sixes in just feels a bit coincidental. And the same with Kris Jenner's birthday being the 66, being 66 on that day. That just seems like an incredible coincidence. It just seems slightly more. It seems more statistically unlikely than should be expected to me. Now, maybe it's not, and maybe somebody can. If anybody has an explanation, a naturalistic explanation they want to share with me, I'd like to hear it. But it strikes me as going beyond what would be statistically expected. But who knows? Anyway, my conclusion then, looking at all of this stuff, is you've basically got these. Well, there's 3 options. One is the naturalistic. There's nothing going on here. It's not a satanic ritual. But I think there's enough going on here to suggest that there's something weird happening. There's something, and I'm open to the supernatural. I think the evidence of God's existence is good. I just think, I'm open to the supernatural. And there've been giants, intellectual giants throughout history, and the vast majority of humans throughout history have believed in the supernatural God of some kind. So I don't think I'm on weak territory here. So I think there's 2 options, and I think something supernatural probably did occur in this incident. The idea, I tend to think that it's what's happened is that Travis Scott has been playing with dark forces, like somebody playing with a Ouija board, and then something profound has occurred, and he's tapped into some dark forces and summoned something, or maybe there were some demonic energy or something weird happened. That's my feeling. But then the idea that this is premeditated and it goes deeper, and there are actually forces out there that are planning these things. There are literal people who worship Satan or Moloch or Baal or all these weird gods, and they do weird ceremonies, and they're totally in touch with this stuff. Maybe even the possibility that there are some human beings there are demons in disguise or something. I mean, that's a scary territory, because I don't want to ever accuse any human being of being a demon, because that's a very dangerous thing to do if they're not a demon. It's like, I don't want to do that. But who knows? Maybe there are some very dark forces in the world. I mean, the Bible says that Satan is the prince of this world, and our battle is really the spiritual battle between angels and demons and stuff. And I know it's all speculation, but maybe. And the reason why I'm kind of open to it, because the last year I feel like I've come across loads of weird, dark things that are happening in the world. I started getting into Pizzagate, and there's some really dark stuff there, and it says elite satanic paedophile rings, and you think, don't be silly, and then when you actually start looking into the evidence of some of this stuff, it's crazy. And this Marina Abramovich, again, I mean, I don't know, maybe she's just pushing boundaries, but she seems a bit dark. And then here's this Lady Gaga. There's Marina Abramovich, and they're eating, this is a cake, some kind of edible cake in the shapes of a corpse, and it's like, is that art, or is that a bit too weird? It's very weird for me. Travis Scott released a album called Owl Pharaoh, and I keep hearing these owl links. This is the Bohemian Grove. This is apparently some kind of owl god, Molech, that I keep hearing. And again, I'm no expert on this. Owls and Molech and gods, and these are Podestas. This is Pizzagate, and they got some really weird artwork, the Podestas, apparently, and it's like, this is what they're connected with, and I don't know. There's loads of weird stuff going on in the world, and so I I think maybe, who knows? If I had to put my money on it, you know, the way it's the last couple of years, it's felt very much like the Antichrist is coming. Just with everything that's happening with the COVID and the vaccines and stuff, it just feels so nightmarish what's happening in the world. And it's like, it just feels like literally the Antichrist is coming or has been summoned, and we're in end of days territory. But then there's another voice in me that says, you've lost the plot, Bob. Don't be silly. And so I'm trying to stay rational and trying to stick with the evidence. And do I have hard evidence? I don't have hard evidence. I just have lots of weird feelings and speculation. So that is what this video is mainly about. It's just speculation. And they're just like my speculative thoughts on the whole topic. And so I'm going to end it there, I think. So, okay. Bye-bye.